Jan Berry will speak. Thank you.
Buffy St. Marie, 1963, Universal Soldier. She's 4'6", he's 6'4". They fight with nuclear missiles, drones, and with spears. She's all of 45, and he's only 13. Been a soldier for thousands of years. He's a Catholic, a Hindu, an atheist, a Jain, a Muslim, Buddhist, Baptist, and a Jew. And she knows she shouldn't kill, and he knows he always will. Kill you for me, my friend, and me for you. And she's fighting for Canada, she's fighting for France, fighting for China and the USA. And he's fighting for Russia, Pakistan, in the end, Zimbabwe. And they think we'll put an end to war this way. And they're fighting for democracy, they're fighting for the Reds. He says it's for the God and the peace of all. She's the one who must decide who's to live and who's to die. And they never see the writing on the wall. But without them, how would Hitler have condemned them at Dachau? Without her, Caesar would have stood alone. He's the one who gives his body as a weapon of the war. And without her, all this killing can't go on. We're the universal soldiers, and we really share the blame. The orders come from far away no more. They come from there and here, and you and me, and brothers, sisters, can't you see? This is not the way we put the end to war. Thank you, Veterans for Peace. Thank you, Susan.
Jan Berry was in Vietnam in the early 1960s and came back and started with a group of veterans an organization called Vietnam Veterans Against the War. For many years, Jan has been working for peace. He knows what war is. He has been Poet Laureate of Veterans for Peace, and we've asked him to say a few of his poems. So please welcome Jan Berry. Thank you.
I can stand.
We got crew.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
Crew.
easier for you to.
Look at this. Crew.
You sit, we adjust.
All right.
Hold on.
Get close.
I'm very glad to be here. I'm dealing with some Agent Orange issues. So I have my handy walker with me. But I didn't feel that I could really do this whole trek that I have done in past years. So I guarded the backpacks and none of them ran away. War holiday. 12 years into the war in Afghanistan, 11 years after the invasion of Iraq, a Marine vet I know, an awesome artist, tried to kill himself. Thankfully, he survived and joined a poetry performance by PTSD wounded vets at a Busboys and Poets restaurant near Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Striding onto the stage with the command presence of a Marine sergeant, he blurted out, "The day after Memorial Day, I tried to kill myself, woke up in the hospital being resuscitated. I've had 17 friends commit suicide. I've lost more friends to suicide than in combat." Where's the wall with those names on it? Didn't they get the memo? Happy Memorial Day. On a more upbeat note, which I've done this piece previous years, it's for David Klein, our former president of Veterans for Peace, leader of Vietnam Veterans Against the War, died in 2007 at age 60. This is called Peace March. It's one of the things that Dave Klein used to like to take marching cadences and do interesting things with with what we were saying. So if you'll join me in this, lift your head and hold it high.
Lift your head and hold it high.
Veterans are passing by.
Veterans are passing by.
Tell them what we're marching for.
Tell them what we're marching for.
Freedom, justice, no more war.
Freedom, justice, no more war.
Here comes an offbeat, onbeat band of grain veterans for peace, calling out marching cadence that rings through city streets. New York, Chicago, Washington, Los Angeles, New Orleans, Boston, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, San Francisco, St. Louis, Minneapolis, San Diego, Albuquerque, Denver, Gainesville, Fayetteville, Baltimore, Seattle, Salt Lake City, Cape Cod, Atlanta, Binghamton, Portland, both of them. Marching column right out of Dallas to the G.W. Bush Ranch by Crawford, Texas, then column left to the White House to tell Obama to stop war's senseless losses. Recycling military cadence calls for peace. Old soldiers are on the march. Wall Street, Broadway, Battery Park, Jersey City, Newark, march upon march. We are veterans against the war.
We are veterans against the war.
We know what we're marching for.
We know what we're marching for.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Stop the killing, stop the war.
Stop the killing, stop the war.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a minute. Just give us a
Cleo's
sec here,
coming.
you know.
Thank you, Jen. Cleo, I know I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but has joined us and will start with a song and then lead us into, she said, an old anti-war song that we all know. So Cleo, welcome.
Thank you.
Don't be afraid of it.
A little bit lower. The vulture of Wall Street circles the earth, sinks his claw into every new birth. But the people rise with our valiant cries and say, Wall Street, you're gonna fall. The vulture of Wall Street circles the earth, sinks his deadly claw into Palestine. But the people's voices rise, no more war. Oh, Wall Street, you're gonna fall. The vulture of Wall Street circles the earth, sinks his deadly claw into Yemen. But the people arise with their cries. Wall Street, you're gonna fall. The vulture of Wall Street circles the land, tries to sink his deadly claw into China. But the people rise with their valiant cries and say, Wall Street, you're gonna fall. The vulture of Wall Street sinks his claws here at home. And our black folk, they have no safe place to roam. But the people rise with our valiant cries, and they say, Wall Street, you're gonna fall. The vulture of Wall Street circles the earth, sinks his deadly claw into the Ukraine. But the people of the earth, they rise with their valiant cries. Wall Street, you're gonna fall. Last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg. Oh, Lambo, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg. Oh, Lambo. Do I see Victoria Newland? Do I see General Mike Milley? Do I see Zelensky and his crew? Do I see President Biden? Do I see both houses of Congress? Do I see the voters, me and you? Last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg. All on board. Last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, all on board. Who killed the children of Donbass, who burned the Union men alive, who's sending F-16 fighters to escalate the war in Ukraine, who's building up war against China, who's killing Palestine? Tell me, is that blood upon my hands? Last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, all on board. Oh, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, all on board. If 500,000 mothers went to Washington and said, we need money to buy food for our children, will you stop sending billions of dollars to your deadly wars? Would the man that came to see say he was too busy to talk to them? Would he say he had to watch the football game? Last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, all on board. Oh, oh, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, last train to Nuremberg, all on board. Thank you.
Ellen, I don't want to break it. You got it, okay. Thank you, Cleo. For most Americans, Memorial Day is a 3-day weekend signifying the beginning of summer. That weekend when we are told to drive carefully. Through television, the internet, we are witness to the thousands of motorists on the highway. We hear news reporters describe roadway traffic tie-ups and long security lines at airports. And of course, we see sales everywhere. Every time we open up the computer or use our cell phone, we see sales. as though one could celebrate the deaths of soldiers and civilians in wartime through buying clothes or a washing machine. Have a happy Memorial Day, friends say to me. A happy Memorial Day? Is it possible to have a happy day when one is commemorating the war dead? Hey, America, listen to us. We were the soldiers you sent to Vietnam, to Cambodia, to Laos, to Iraq, to Afghanistan, to Okinawa, Japan, Niger, Syria. We joined the military because we believe your lies about preserving democracy and freedom. Some of us learned through experience that we were told lies. Some of us learned from the truth tellers like Julian Assange. With the release of Collateral Murder, a video that relieved the cold-blooded, deliberate murder of Iraqi civilians, the deliberate attack on Iraqi children that was filmed from a US military helicopter as it blasted to pieces 2 reporters from Reuters, 9 other men, and seriously wounded the children. Hey, America, listen to us. We should be honoring people who reveal the truth to us, who launch the foremost global enemy of state secrecy, not torturing them to death in British prisons to face espionage allegations in the United States. Through television, the internet, and social media, we are witness to the antipathy and ignorance of the American public as wars rage at home toward those in poor communities and people of color. We are incited by news organizations like the New York Times that constantly blast accounts of the war in Ukraine as though it were a football game, leading the cheering section of revelers. Let me tell you, as a veteran who cared for soldiers during the American war in Southeast Asia, war injures all who participate. It kills the body and soul. It damages communities and families. It impacts generations. And who profits? The war industry, the merchants of death that produce and distribute armaments. It drains our social resources that are life-sustaining, our education, healthcare, social services, housing, and uses those resources for death and destruction. And we go on with our lives, overwhelmed by the enormity of the challenges facing us. Hey, America, listen to us. Contrary to popular belief, conventional wisdom would have one believe it is insane to resist this, the mightiest of empires. The words of Mumia Abu-Jamal. But what history really shows us is that today's empire is tomorrow's ashes, that nothing lasts forever, and that to not resist is to acquiesce in your own oppression. The greatest form of sanity that anyone can exercise is to resist that force that is trying to repress, oppress, and fight down the human spirit. We who know the truth have a responsibility to share it with others, to organize, to lead the way toward a sustainable future. War and militarism are destroying the planet. Hey, America, wake up and listen to us. We are at war in this country, on this land. We are killing our children. We have become the monster in the world that produces more armaments, more battleships, more drones that annihilate whole communities with the push of a button. We destroy our young, we kill school children with impunity. We poison our water and food supply. We give the wealthy everything, great economic wealth and political power, so they can grab more opportunities for power and money, while we starve the poor, denigrate them with substandard housing, substandard education, lack of decent job opportunities, and then offer a way out by joining the military. We arm police departments with military weapons that destroy and kill. No trial necessary for the poor and disadvantaged. And yet we send our military might all over the world and use it against people of color here. America, what have we become? How did we become immune to the dead children in Texas, in Florida, Chicago, in Parkland, killed by gun violence? How did we become immune to school children killed by guns produced in America by gunmen produced in America? We export our military violence to the highest bidder. America, we supply the arms used to kill school children in Yemen. We target them, their school buses. We starve the children in Syria as we starve the children in Venezuela. We look for wars as outlets for our munitions industry. We perpetuate violence all over the world. Hey, America, listen again to Mumia al-Jabbar. Before this generation goes on to its ancestors, we must do our level best to pass on our lessons so that they live in our people's minds and lives. We are veterans for peace, Vietnam veterans against the war. We say, no more war, no more war, no more war, no more. Remember, Memorial Day is to commemorate living things that have died through human destruction. We need to stop that destruction. So for all of you celebrating Memorial Day, stop a moment and join us as Veterans for Peace say no more war.
No more war.
No more war. Did you want? Sure. We'll start our commemoration of all things that have died and suffered as a result of human destruction. And I guess I'll start as the descendant of a human who gave his life for what he thought his country, but I would say it was a lesson, certainly to me, to work my entire life for peace, for life-giving. And I would also like to say I throw the flower in commemoration of what we lost as a family and what we continue to lose as a nation. Thank you. And could the next person come up? Oh dear.
Come here, rather than continuing to adjust, we're gonna let people hold it.
Want me up here? I thought you were going to talk.
No, I'm just
You're just holding the mic.
No, you're
Thank you.
hold it right on up.
I want us to try and remember a group of people who tried to prevent World War II by fighting against Hitler, Mussolini, and Franco in Spain in the 30s. They lost because the democracies, our country included, our so-called democracy, was among those who tried to pretend that they were neutral in that struggle. And these people, including the vet who was a member of Chapter 34, whom I'm commemorating, was one of the ones who thought that they would be able to stop Hitler in his tracks. And when it didn't work, they went on to volunteer in World War II, where many of them died. His name was Mo Fishman. Presente, Mo Fishman. And I also want to commemorate a more recent veteran who was part of Chapter 34 too, Bill Gilson, whom you all know, even though you might not have known Mo. But Bill was, he was changed by Veterans for Peace, by people like Dave Klein and Tarek Kauf, and many of you here too. Bob Keilback was one of the first vets to talk about him in Chapter 34, and he learned to be a peace warrior with us. Remember Bill Gilson. Bill Gilson, presente.
Keep it right up.
Hi, I'd like to commemorate 3 veterans from Jersey City, where I live, who are hidden casualties of the Vietnam War. Clarence Fitch, Dave Klein, and Jamie Vasquez, all presente.
America has a disease. Actually, America has many diseases, but one that is a root cause is this idea of American exceptionalism, this idea that America is somehow better than other countries, that is somehow in a position to dictate to other countries. That's a disease. That's a disease if you think that you're an American and you are any better than any other person on this planet. There's an even worse disease. That is human exceptionalism. You notice on that banner over here, move over a little bit, Ellen. It says, remember all living things. All living things. It is not just human beings that suffer from war. It is all our brethren, all the four-legged, all the winged birds that fly in the sky, all the sea creatures, and all those animals that crawl on the land. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to read a poem by Teresa Mae Chuck, who's a Vietnamese, who wrote this, a Vietnamese survivor of the war. This is called The Decade the Rainforest Died. The deer did not stop running. Leopards climbed into trees that could not hide them. The doe clanger and the white-cheeked gibbon cursed at the metal gods we flew, raining on them as they burned from napalm. Elephants choked on the smoke of gunpowder and poison, their steps a strange rhythm as they tried to fly. The thunder of bombs echoed the steps of elephants. Tigers exploded as they stepped onto landmines in a forest covered with leaves, dead from Agent Orange, fallen trees, and decomposing bodies of animals and people. The earthworms were washed away in monsoons with soil that could no longer grab onto roots. The Javan rhinoceros and the wild water buffaloes that was still alive wandered aimlessly. Weary with M16s and AK-47s, we marched quietly and steadily, not knowing why we were killing each other. Thank you. This is for all our relations. As the Lakotas say, Mitakwi Wasan, all my relations. Presente.
This is for Frank Wagner, who came to this event and many other Veterans for Peace events for many, many, many years. Presente Frank Wagner.
Okay. This is for Sergeant Matthew Fenton, who died in Iraq, and for Walter Soule, who died by suicide, Jeffrey Lucy, who died by suicide, all victims of the war based on lies. Presente.
Presente.
This is for Kevin McGuire, a boyhood friend from Staten Island. He died in Vietnam, January '68. And for Casey Sheehan, who was killed in Iraq in 2004. Presente.
Presente.
This is for my friend Toby Emmer, who was a fighter for peace all her life. She died last year. Her family had a tradition of fighting for peace and justice. Her parents were blacklisted in the 50s. She fought for political prisoners. She fought for union members. She fought for anybody who was a victim of social justice. And she did it joyously and with great commitment. Presente.
Toby Emmer, presente. Lovely.
This is for Frank Dressner, who died at 24 in 1942 at Guadalcanal. He was the uncle of my wife, Elspeth, for Frank Dressner.
Presente. I'll hold it, Alice.
Okay. This is for my two wonderful young, way too young immigrant neighbors who died relatively recently. One is Ryan A. Tejeda, and he died on April 11th, 2003 in Iraq. He lived in Washington Heights, and because he was Dominican and an immigrant and undocumented, they made him a hero and made a big parade later on, and they came and marched and made him a citizen after he died, and it's heartbreaking. And they said that he died in combat, but it was actually an IED. Ryan A. Tejeda, my Dominican neighbor. The second one I just learned of recently in the Bronx, and his name was Private Abdul Nafsu Latifu. And Private Latifu was from Ghana, and his family lived in the Bronx in Ghana. He was sent to Fort Rucker in Alabama, which is near Montgomery, in January 10th, 2022. He was killed by his roommate, which was supposed to be safe. He was hit with a shovel. And a young white private who was 21 years old, and Abdul Latifu was also 21 years old. So, presente.
Presente.
This is in honor of Shireen Abu Akleh,
who was a photographer in Palestine, and in honor of all the Palestinian people who are suffering every day in every way. Presente.
Presente. Throw another one. Take another one.
Wait, I have to.
Here. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, presente. Keep going. I'll hold the mic.
Can you hold it? Okay. Okay, this is for all the people who lost their lives during the Battle of Okinawa, and to honor the people of Okinawa who was, fighting for peace diligently, and they are going in June, planning to read all the names who lost their lives during the battle, and we both together to work for that. Getting together, collecting the volunteers here to read the American soldiers' names. So if you are interested in that, come to us after this. And especially I want to emphasize that this is very, very difficult time for Okinawan people, and they are so scared of their islands will become a battlefield again. And we wish and we pray and ask you pray together and work together. Nobody's lives should be lost, and in Okinawans, and of course Americans and Taiwanese and even Chinese, no lives should be lost by war. Okay, we throw this.
Okay, go. You want to take one?
Take one. Rocks around over here. Watch your step, folks. Try to hold on to the handrails.
Presente.
Handrails. Watch your step. A lot of boats going by.
I'll hold the mic down.
This is for my partner, John Moreno, who died 3 days ago. He was not a veteran, but he did live in Germany for a while, hung out with people that are on the base, and was just a lifelong activist against all social injustice. And I think Alice introduced us. We all met, we met at Desert Storm protests that we had in Washington Heights. And yeah, and that's how I got more active with Alice and John. And anyway, and this is, well, it's for John, it's for anyone who suffered from war. And there are trillions of us.
Presente. Good.
Once again, folks, you ever ride back to New York, all passengers must go ashore.
I'll hold the mic.
Start making your way down to the forward gangway area. Hold the handrail.
This is in memory of my childhood friend, Alan Keating, small town in Massachusetts, drafted to go to Vietnam, and lasted about 4 months before he died in battle. I also want to remember all the Vietnamese, the millions of Vietnamese who were murdered, killed, displaced from bombs, Agent Orange. This was a malicious war. It was not a war for freedom, certainly not a war for our freedom, and it was not a war for our democracy. Actually, it was a war against the Vietnamese democracy and their idea of freedom. So for all of those Vietnamese and my friend Alan, presente.
Presente.
Hi, this is for my friends Billy Blake and Paul Edge, who died in the Tet Offensive in 1968 at Hue. This is also for my best friend in high school, Jimmy Halloran, who blew his brains out shortly after coming back from Vietnam. the hundreds of thousands of people who have died in the past year in Ukraine, many of them under U.S. arms. It's shameful that we're still sending arms into that war. So, presente.
Presente.
This is for our friend Bernie Friedman, Korean War veteran who just died recently. He's probably in his 90s. Presente.
Presente. Anyone else?
All ashore, folks, all ashore, please. Exit quickly on the gangway. Exit quickly on the gangway, please.
Get on the gangway. I want to thank the Veterans for Peace for having that great exhibit on My Lai massacre. So I think of those faces of the My Lai people. I want to send a flower to those people throughout Vietnam, but especially in that huddled group of women. I also would like to give my love out to all the Iranians who died when the US-backed Iraqis invaded their country, all the many thousands who gave their lives defending Iran. To them, we apologize and we think of you. And I also, for the first time, would like to say, I love you, Dad. My father, Dr. Tim Donovan, in 1968 put on a black armband and went to work, and all his coworkers moved away from him. So I want to thank you, Dad, for that courage. You kept that up. And my Uncle Tom Donovan, my godfather, who was a Marine, the same for all that thought. So thank you. Presente, Dr. Tim and Tom. God bless you. Presente.
I'll hold the mic, John. This is in memory of my father, Saul Kupferman, who fought in the Battle of the Bulge, but also worked in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and died many years later of suicide due to the asbestos poisoning that he faced and the degradation that he underwent for many years. And this is to all the American indigenous people who suffered from many of the wars, from the Revolutionary War on, that many, many were killed that we won't even acknowledge. Thank you. Presente. Presente. This is for all who went to war not knowing the truth of killing and death and maiming and what was really going on, and whose hearts were transformed by the encounter with the evil of war and death, and came home and turned that experience of war into lives dedicated for peace and passion for justice, whom I'm honored to be with on this Memorial Day as an associate member of Veterans for Peace, but for all those around the world who turned their experience and encounter of the evil of war into a passion for peace and a belief in hope and the possibility of another way of being human with one another. And today, especially, I remember my good friend, Father John McNeil, who in prisoner of war in Nazi Germany, but will never forget his experience, and came back home and said it was the courage and the spirit of people who led him to begin a movement for the LGBT community. And also today I'm thinking of people, I just thought of Phil Berrigan, who turned his experience of the horrors of war into a life dedicated for peace. May we have a little slimmer of his passion. That's all I would want, to rid our world of nuclear weapons and the threat of war. Presente. Presente. Anyone?
I know I went.
I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, Battery Park final topic here on the up deck. Please make your way.
For my great uncle, Aki Zolkowitz, injured in the World War I, and for my father, Albert J. Zolkowitz, disabled in World War II.
I know I spoke before, but it wouldn't be right if I did not remember one of our poet laureates and World War II veteran who was a great anti-war activist for years, ever since he got back from World War II and the infantry. And he was an original member of Veterans for Peace, the original Veterans for Peace in San Francisco. Jay Wenk, presente. Anyone else?
I just want to tell all my Veterans for Peace folks, I missed you, I love you. I want to say you're just an inspiration, and I hope the world hears you, because I've heard you, and I follow you and love you. On this day, I don't know, Frank Stearns keeps coming into my head, a wonderful veteran, and sadly, he was a victim of the COVID, I believe. And I'm grateful we're here today to remember him and to remember everyone, because that COVID there are no words. So God bless you, I thank you, and peace be with you, and may we find it somewhere along the way. Presente. Presente.
Is there anyone else who, Cleo, come.
This flower is for Jordan Neely, who died in the war against the poor, the homeless, and the people of color in this country. He's strangled to death on the train by a man trained as a military weapon. And justice for Jordan Neely, and may he rest in power. Presente.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
This is for my father, Lieutenant Morris Stein, who went and trained with his platoon of communications GIs in the Second World War. He trained for about a year in this country, and then was sent to England for the Battle of the Bulge. And unlike Joel's father, who made it to the Battle of the Bulge, my father didn't make it to the Battle of the Bulge. And the reason was that practically all of his men were killed in a sinking of the troopship Leopoldville, which was suppressed for decades after the Second World War. Like so many of the horrible things that happen in war are kept away from the civilians to help promote war. And my father, whom I lived with all of my life, he lived to a ripe old age. He didn't tell me, he didn't tell anybody. And shortly before he died, he told me about losing all of his men, or almost all of his men. He was on a different ship. His men went on the Leopoldville. And it's, you know, you might want to Google the Leopoldville. There are books written about it and everything, but it was suppressed. And he suffered all of his life, and I didn't even know it. I knew that there was something the matter, but I didn't know what. And this is for all of you and all of the survivors of war who have been suffering silently for all they've seen and all they've lost and all the people they've lost. Morris Stein, presente.
I never joined the army in Iran. I was very lucky. My brother was in the army, and for the past many years, I have been admiring you people, the Veterans for Peace, which is total bravery, honesty, and basically acknowledging what wrong it was done by you in your name and by our government. And our government is still killing people around the world on a daily basis and supporting one of the most disgusting entities in the world, and who's killing Palestinians and destroying their lives for the past 75 years. I am honoring you people. It's in your name that I'm throwing this in. Presente.
Well, this all got me thinking about a lot of people I've known. I go to AA meetings. I had a friend there, Bob. We got pretty friendly. He was a veteran, and he told a story that everybody was lined up waiting to get shipped to Vietnam, all the privates, and a general came in and said, "Hey, Finch, didn't you all go to college? Well, the general in Wiesbaden needs a personal secretary. I'm shipping you there." And, well, I guess it was a break for him. And anyway, and then once I was, we went out, a whole bunch of people went out for coffee, and I was trying to rally everybody at the table to get to this or that rally. And he says, "You activist types are a big pain in the ass." So, I don't know of any veterans. Here we go. I don't even have veterans in my family.
This is for all those who have participated in war because or despite their so-called religious faith. We have so many people who believe that what they're doing is right. Their religious leaders have blessed the weapons, they've condoned the wars, and they've just desecrated faith. And it's all faiths. I happen to be Catholic. It's definitely the Christian faith. We have killed Jesus over and over and over again. And it's time that we stop. It's also for all those conscientious objectors who said no to war, and I will name one in particular, Ben Salmon, who was a conscientious objector in World War I and was imprisoned, abused, died, I'm sure, younger than he should have because of his mistreatment. He did not die in prison, but he died young, and his health was really pretty much ruined because of how badly he was treated. So for all those who got their faith right and refused to participate, and for all those that were duped into participating because of their faith, presente.
Hi, my name is Joe Hirsch. I've been a member of VVAW and Vets for Peace since May 4th, 1970. And the happiest moment was occurred when I stopped at a table and got peace tags with a peace symbol and the Vietnam Veterans Against the War. The most unhappy and the most horrible experience was when I was in language school. We went up to, I think it was San Jose, California, and visited a arms maker. The tour guide was Vietnamese. It was horrible. He showed us what they were making there. They were little planchettes, sharp as you could ever imagine, and said, "This is for our freedom." And I think at that moment, that's when I changed my thinking, or started to change my thinking about what I was doing. And I dedicate these flowers to all the brave people who died in wars, and also for people who are trying to put a stop to it. Thank you. Lefty.
Yes. I want to remember all the people of Yemen who have suffered and died under the U.S. sanctions and the weapons that we have provided Saudi Arabia, and even did it ourselves, killed children and many, many people. Wedding parties, we didn't discriminate, but all the people of Yemen who have suffered because of our country, the United States. It's shameful and it's unethical and it's immoral. Presente.
Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis. Is there anybody else?
I say the same thing for the people in Lebanon.
Presente. And I'll say for all those who struggle for peace and justice and continue to fight and say, we are veterans for peace. We want justice in this country. We want this country to stop waging war all over the world. For all those things, all those living things that humans have destroyed and continue to, we Americans say we're sorry, and we will continue to work for peace and work for justice. Thank you all, Veterans for Peace. And I'll say one more time to the tourists over there, come join peace, come join social justice. Stop the killing. If you don't stop the killing, you are complicit in it. We all have a responsibility in this country. It's enough already. It's enough destruction all over the world and at home. You need to join us for peace. Thank you.
Where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago. Where have all the flowers gone? Gone to drown girls, everyone. And will they ever learn? Oh, when will they ever learn? Don't put it in my face, please. And where have all the young girls gone?
Long time passing. Where have all the young girls gone? Long time ago. Where have all the young girls gone? Gone to Sipens, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn? Where have all the young men gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young men gone? Long time ago. Where have all the young men gone? Gone to soldiers, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will they ever learn?
It's right there on the wall. Where have
all the soldiers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the soldiers gone? Long long time ago. Where have all the soldiers gone? Gone to graveyards, everyone. When will they ever learn? When will we ever learn?
Here's the hope.
All the graveyards gone, long time passing. Where have all the graveyards gone? Long time ago. Where have all the graveyards gone? Gone to flowers, everyone. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn?
All we are
saying
is all
we are saying.
Once more as loud as you can. Wake up, America, as Susan said. Are you listening?
Thank you,
I'll hold the mic for you while you play taps.
No, that's all right. Thanks. I got it. Thank you. Yeah, you got it.
No, please join us. Anthony is going to be playing taps at the conclusion of our ceremony. So please, Veterans for Peace, wait until we're done. Thank you. Do you want me to hold it?
No, that's okay. I forgot to mention my father was a captain in the Army. I was born in an Army hospital. God bless Tim.